To my surprise, I found him fairly easily. He had a grim look on his face, which told me he knew that we were in a considerable amount of trouble. Once he noticed he had my attention, he gestured towards his armor. He must have looked confused, because he clarified by subtly pulling out a fire. He got them. He got the Alphasite's eyes. That short burst of excitement died as I realized we probably wouldn't have an opportunity to give them to RL. Man, I know that not all of you agree with what we are doing. I myself can't bring myself to say that what we are doing is right. However, I stand here before you and ask you to follow me despite this. I'm not offering some grand battle full of glory, for there's none to be had here. I'm asking you to fight with me to put an end to this. I want to go home. I know I'm not the only one. Several cheers sounded throughout the crowd. If I hadn't been involved with Rael and the other Shahrans, my sentiment might have been the same. Who am I kidding? It was the same. I got involved in this whole affair because I wanted Aiden to come home. Let's burn Rael to the ground and finish off this pointless battle once and for all. A loud roar of approval sounded from the men. I couldn't help but be slightly impressed. There was so little cause to rally for this battle, and yet Maris had managed to call forth some semblance of support. The men began marching, and the guards that were keeping watch over me led me to the front where Maris was, no doubt, so he could keep an eye on me. The journey across the desert was harder with no camels. The sun was harsh, but the men kept going without complaint. It made me wonder what other intolerable things they had to endure as soldiers of Guadoa. As we got closer and became more and more nervous, I wished that the army would slow down. I hoped that they would make it to Rael after the sands had risen. I hoped that Rael was right in the first place and the protective sands would actually come. My hopes were crushed. Oh God. The army continued at the same pace, and Rael was now within our sights. There was no sandstorm surrounding it in safety. A small gathering of Shahran warriors lined up waiting for our arrival. At the front of the small army was Rael, equipped with a bow and a short sword at his side. I couldn't bring myself to meet his gaze. I looked at the sand guiltily. I finally get the pleasure of making your acquaintance, Rael, second son of King Karal and Prince of Rael. I keep my gaze focused, but I hear what happens to be a spitting noise. Is that roughly how you addressed my brother before you poisoned him, Maris? As a matter of fact, it is. If you submit to Guadoa, I've been given permission to spare your people. I would rather it ended that way than massacre. Angry shouts rose from the Shihurans. They weren't going to submit. They had been willing to talk peace when they sent Rael to meet with General Maris, but they weren't going to bow down to another power. No deal. We will not be intimidated into bowing down to scum like you. Men. Wait. I have another proposition. I don't want to listen to it. I think you do, considering it works more in your favor. Spit it out, then, if you must. Instead of having my army slaughter your people, I would have a one-on-one duel to the death. Your best warrior against mine. If we lose, I'll give you my head. If you lose, you submit to Guardias, so this conflict can end. A generous offer if I believed you wouldn't go back on it. Do you have a better option? Name your warrior. Aiden, step forward. I raise my head at this. No, please no, not Aiden. Aiden immediately walks forward, keeping his gaze set on the opposing army. His eyes have gone cold, and I can tell they are ready to kill. Rael pales slightly, but then approaches Aiden. It seems that Rael is going to be the one who faces off against Aiden. He draws his sword, and this action confirms it. His eyes contain the same serious fire that Aiden says. My heart breaks to 1,000 pieces, and all I can do is to tremble as my body goes cold. Either way, I'm going to lose someone important in this fight. If Aiden wins, the other Shahurans might be spared, but, well, and if Rahel wins, I'll lose Aiden, and who knows if Maris will actually keep his word. He didn't keep his word to Arel, that much was certain. Aiden draws his sword, and the duel officially begins. He lunges at Rael. Rael lifts his sword to meet the blow and is sent backwards by the sheer force of it. He stumbles and ends up in the sand. Aiden raises his sword, intent on striking a death blow, but Rael tosses some sand into his face. Aiden backs off as if he tries to recover, and Rael gets to his feet. Just then, a column of sand erupts from the ground, but Aiden and Rael stop battering and turn their attention towards it. Maris' eyes widen as he takes in this new phenomenon. Another column erupts nearby, and I remember the sacred sands that Rael promised would come. If Aiden gets the Opposite's eyes to Rael, and if Rael can get behind the sand in time, maybe things can work out. I just have to shout out to Rael. If I speak in Shahuran, Maris won't catch on, and Rael can speak for Aiden. But if I do that, my life is forfeit. I don't know what Maris will do to me after I speak. That means I have a choice. Goodness. I want to save this. I can't save right. Yeah, I can. Okay. God. Well, Aiden has the opposite's eyes. Ask him to give them to you and get back to Rel before the sandstorm surrounds the city. The guards are too stumbled by my sudden outburst to do anything. That gives me a chance to make one last request. Take Aiden with you. He'll only be punished if he stays. Rahel takes a moment to register everything I'm saying, but then nods. He turns to Aiden to say something, but it's too late. Aiden is already rushing towards me, a desperate look on his face. It's only then that I realize that Maris is approaching me with a drawn sword. He shoves his guards aside and kicks me to the ground. I'm done dealing with you. If you want to turn your back on Guadilla, fine. Death is the only thing that awaits traitors. Just be grateful that I'm going to give you a quick one. I close my eyes, expecting the fatal blow. However, instead of feeling the cut of steel, I feel a body collapse onto me. It's wet. That has to be blood, doesn't it? God. I try to open my eyes, but they won't budge. They don't want to see. I feel a hand brush my cheek. It's gentle. I don't have to open my eyes to know who it is. I choke back a sob and force myself to look at Aiden. He smiles at me briefly. I hate it. He should be angry at me for getting him into all this. I never wanted him to sacrifice himself for me. Lord, I have to control my voice carefully or else I'll just break down and cry. Yeah? Aiden pulls out the Aphrodite's eyes. They're soaked in blood. He hands them to me. That's what you're talking to him about, right? After that, Aiden gets to his feet despite how injured he is. He faces Maris, who up to this point had to be dumbfounded by Aiden's actions. Maris gets back into a warrior stance, ready to face off against Aiden. Lord, get to Rael. But I want you to live. Do this for me. It's the only thing I'll ever ask of you. I can't. Please, Lord. Cute. However, it's time to end this. Aiden tightens his grip on his sword. He's making a good effort, but I can tell he's in no state to fight. He's lost too much blood. Aiden knows he doesn't stand a chance, but he's still planning on fighting. He laughs grimly before addressing me a final time. Sorry, Laura. I'm not going to be able to keep that promise I made to you. I suppose it's too much to even expect you to remember it, though. We were just kids. I do remember. Suddenly, it seems very important for me to tell him that. I remember that promise. I've always remembered it. So, Don't you dare go back on it. I want to live with you for the rest of my life, and I don't want it to end here. Don't you dare die. I'm crying now. I don't know how impossible that sounds, but now that I'm sure it's not going to happen, I want all the more. A sad smile creeps across his face. That's all the time we have for each other. Maris doesn't wait any longer. Maris laughs. Aiden brings up his sword to meet the blow, but the effort wasn't needed. Wow. An arrow sinks deep into Maris's neck. He staggers back and collapses onto the ground, gasping for air. Blood seeps out of his mouth. He chokes, mumbling something incoherent before he dies. Aiden doubles over. He doesn't need to defend me anymore, so he has let himself give into his wounds. How is he? Rael trots over to us, dumbing his bow as he comes to Aiden's aid. It's bad. He lost a lot of blood. Rael produces some bandages and sets to work wrapping the wound. You have my word. I'll do whatever I can to help him, Lore. Is there anything I can do? Charles surprises me. I thought for sure he'd be fighting against the Shahurans, but when I look around, all of the Guardian soldiers are standing around in shock. Now that I think about it, with Maris and Aiden out of commission, I guess command falls to Charles. I guess it's up to him to give the order to fight or not. Either way, nobody seems keen on fighting now. I'm grateful for that. Help me get him to the city. Charles nods, and the two of them lift Aiden's body. The two of them work together and get him to the city as several more pillars of sand sprout from the ground. So I guess this makes me a traitor now, right? Charles seems worried. I imagine he's thinking about his wife, Helena, back home. Not necessarily. What do you mean? The soldiers will listen to you. I don't know. They love you. You're always nice to them, and I never had a bad word spoken about you. Besides, Maris soldiers want to go home just as much as you do. I don't think it'd be hard to persuade them to keep quiet. If enough soldiers agree with you, they'll have to accept your explanation. I see. You can say the sandstorm wiped out Rael. But isn't that what's going to happen? Granted, it's weird for a sandstorm, but no. When it's up completely, it will protect our rail for 10 years. 10 years, but I'm sorry, but that's about as in-depth as an explanation you are going to get. We're running out of time, and Lore needs to make a decision. If we're going to save Aiden, he needs to stay here. He won't make it all the way to Guadoa, so that isn't an option. The sands won't wait. You can choose, though. You can stay here, or you can go back to Guadoa. 10 years is a long time to wait to see Aiden, but you'd be able to keep your life as a merchant in Guadoa. Rael turns to Charles. You take care of him for me. You have my word. So, Lore, what will it be? You have to make the decision now. I want to stay, and I want to go back to... I don't want to go back to Guadoa and, be a loner for, 10 flipping years without, my boyfriend. I'm gonna stay here. Right. Glad to hear you're staying, Lore. He smiles happily. He seems genuinely pleased with my choice to stay. I guess that means I have to say goodbye to Charles now. I turn to him, about to say something. Let's keep it simple. See you in 10 years, Lore. I'll miss you. I miss you too, Lore. It was good having you at the outpost. But it won't be forever. When 10 years is up, I'll come back with a couple bottles of wine. We can have a good long chat then, alright? You got it. Charles hugs me tight. Take care. You too, old man. He laughs. Then, let's be go. After that, it really is goodbye. He trots back off towards the army and begins to talk with them. The final pillars of sand shoot up from the ground, creating a complete wall around the city. 10 years here, huh? Lots of things have happened over this year. Aiden, recovered from his wound, has actually become quite popular in Rael. The older Shaharans like him because he constantly helps out with the harder physical labor. The men respect his strength, and the women, well, they're into it. Oh, and he's even learned some of the language. He still has a long way to go, though. Arel got better, too. It looked grim for a while, but he pulled through. He's every bit as strong as Rael claimed he was. We've talked a bit here and there. He seems like an interesting person. He's more princely in conduct than Rael anyway. He's always very polite. Speaking of Rael, he's been doing good too. Both he and his father seem relieved that he isn't the heir. Dang. He's told me that he's glad about the whole situation because it frees up his time so he can flirt with me. I've been working as assistant to Liara. Granted, the variety of items isn't going to be all that great while the sands are up, but we're doing just fine selling local goods. So yeah, that's been my life in RL up to this point. Tonight should be interesting though. There's a festival going on and I've actually gotten a few invites. Now all that's left is to figure out who I want to go with. I have invitations from both Rael and Aiden, but I kind of want to accept them both. Of course, I can't really do that, can I? It doesn't seem like I'm going to decide between them anytime soon, so I decided it's better to reject both offers and go alone. Well, perhaps it isn't the best solution, but it isn't fair to string them both along when I can't make up my mind. When it's time for the festival, I head out by myself. It's nighttime, and the Sharuns are gathered around a huge bonfire. From what Rael told me, the festival is apparently set up to honor both the past and the future of the Shaharun people. Anyone who wishes to speak may tell a story about a person who has passed away while people are gathered around the bonfire. These stories range from everyday routines of the deceased to tell tales about their lifetime accomplishments. It's fun and sort of informative if you can pick out the truths from lies. Nobody seems particularly concerned with inaccuracies. Rael actually ends up telling one about his great-grandmother, who was apparently a famed warrior. I can tell he's lying through his teeth, but it's a funny story, and he is definitely one of the better storytellers. Once everyone who wants to speak has, people pair off and dance around the bonfire. Most of them are couples, but there are other pairs too. Some are family, and some just seem to be good friends. I sit on the sidelines and observe until Aiden approaches me. You came alone? Yeah, you too? Well, Liara invited me, but I didn't really want to come with anyone if I wasn't coming with you. Sorry, I rejected your invitation. I got one from Wild too, and I didn't want to choose between you guys, so I didn't. So that's what's happened. I jumped. I hadn't expected Rael to just suddenly appear. Well, I didn't. It seems that if we want Laura's attention, we'll just have to share. No? I guess so. Huh? Did you guys just decide something weird? They both grab one of my hands and pull me up from my seated position before dragging me along. Hey, what the heck is going on? It's boring if you just sit on the sidelines, so Aiden and I thought we'd come over here and get you involved. You too, Aiden? Aiden nods, blushing slightly. Well, Rael blushes too, before bringing up something absolutely insane. This may sound weird, but I'm just going to put this out there. How about a threesome relationship? What? Well, the way I figure it, if you can't choose between us, don't. Aiden and I get along pretty well, too, so that's ridiculous. Aiden, tell him that's ridiculous. Don't tell me you're actually considering it. Well, you're kidding me, right? If that's what you wanted, I'll be willing, Lord. They're both mad. That would never work. It's insane to even think about, but both of them are acting like it's a reasonable request. My head grows dizzy, and I can't believe that I'm actually thinking about it now. Maybe. Well, it is weird, but so are they. It could maybe possibly work, right? So I'm thinking about the time. This is like 19 minutes. I'll keep going since this seems like the ending. Ending 5. Oh my god, I always get the weirdest. I got like the weirdest ending first with that other game, like Night in the Hospital. Oh my god, I got like a threesome ending. That's awesome. I was not expecting that to even be an option in this. I'm not sure if I should just play, like, try to get the rest of these endings on camera or not. I really enjoyed this story. Like, it's very creative. I feel like there's a lot of explanation when there shouldn't be, but I can't seem to pinpoint. I don't know. Like, the ending, not ending, like the explanation with explaining, like, how I guess, like, people get punished in like a main character's country. I just felt like that was like unneeded. There is like other explanations as well. It's like it's just too much explanations. But other than that, I like the creativity, the desert. It's always a bonus not to see high school kids. But anyways, till next time, guys.